I'm Michelle Beckham-Corbin, president of C3 Creating Connections Consulting, a social media marketing firm.
And I'm Mark McCumber, president of McCumber Creations.
Welcome to our show on social media.
Digitally speaking.
If you're just tuning in, this is actually show number 6 for us. And our last show was all about powering up your social media with analytics and just a little touch of LinkedIn. You can find that show on ACTV's website or on their YouTube channel, and just look for show number 6. So today, Mark, I thought we'd start off with just a little bit of a recap of show number 5 for folks who may want to go back and try to figure out if it's something they want to tune into. With show number 5, we discussed the importance of strategically using social media to measure key performance indicators, a lot of times known as KPIs, that drive your call to action. So we took a look at dashboards that help with the management of social media, items like TweetDeck or Hootsuite. And in case you're wondering kind of what a dashboard is, I've got a little definition here for you. Dashboards help to measure and manage social media platforms, and they can manage these platforms in the same space. They can schedule messages, updates, and tweets, and they can also track brand messages or mentions. So it's kind of like your reputation management system all in one place, and they give you incredible analytics, the ability to analyze your social media traffic. And so last time we talked, as I mentioned, just a tad about LinkedIn. And so Mark, today I know we're going to delve much, much deeper into LinkedIn.
Well, I think it's really interesting, Michelle. And number 5, by the way, was one of my favorite shows so far. We've had a blast doing this, and we're really getting a little deeper and deeper and deeper into this social media network. And hopefully you've gained some knowledge and been able to apply it. And I think the leap from Facebook to LinkedIn is going to be a really interesting one for folks, because Facebook has kind of been such a public social type platform, whereas Facebook has been used primarily and started out primarily.
Or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, excuse me, has started out more as a business type. B2B was almost something that was perceived as a resume posting service to some degree, but it's made great leaps and bounds, and LinkedIn is a very exciting platform.
Right. Today, there are over 250 million people who are using LinkedIn. And the folks from all of the Fortune 500 companies, leadership, all have profiles on LinkedIn, and many, many, many companies have company pages on LinkedIn as well. You know, as I was listening to you kind of describing Facebook and all of the interaction there, what really came to mind, Mark, when you said that was slice of life. Facebook is such a slice of life with people sharing little bites of their personal life. And LinkedIn is a place where people share little bites of their professional life. It is the leading professional social networking site out there, the premier place to be.
Great way to, keep in front of the business world. And even though people sometimes use Facebook, it's kind of a crossover. I know I use Facebook often just as a place to post my music stuff and a lot of my things. But LinkedIn is kind of more professional, B2B, business to business applications. And especially if you're looking for a job or trying to just network with people to produce new leads for your business, LinkedIn is probably the hot spot for you.
Absolutely. And you brought up a really good point. I think it's kind of dissipating now, but I think for a long time people really did feel that LinkedIn was a place to deposit their resume. And that it was mostly for job search. And as you've mentioned, it's gone beyond that. It is the place to network, not only for your next job or your next opportunity, but to network maybe to increase your business, to build sales, to find partners, just tons and tons of reasons to use LinkedIn. Any need for some kind of a professional connection, LinkedIn will be your place to get that started. And the other thing that I wanted to mention too is getting back to the place for your resume. LinkedIn is more than that. It is a living, breathing platform. That's why it's a social network. People are on LinkedIn. They're having conversations every day. They are sharing articles. They are showing their expertise. So for example, you talk a lot about Facebook and kind of using that as a way to kind of share your music and your passion for the arts. And so even though someone might think, well, that's kind of the creative side and maybe not necessarily a place for LinkedIn, it certainly is. Because in your updates, you can share what you're working on creatively. You can have links to your website. You can have links to your music so that people could hear, what you're working on, and to see some of your creative projects too, in your artwork, etc. So LinkedIn is just this wonderful place to share information and to have conversations. And today, you now have the ability to add rich media to your LinkedIn profile. So as I mentioned, your website and music and photographs and things, you can not only share them in an update, links in an update, but you can actually embed them into your LinkedIn profile just as you would content on a website. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, and another interesting piece of that whole thing is that LinkedIn made some really gigantic leaps in the expansion of their platform, primarily probably because Facebook did as well. Facebook had such a great, huge bound and leap where it started out as Facebook was often referred to in the beginning as something like MySpace, which was actually started and
For
young
music.
kids were using
Right.
it and artists were using it, and then everybody said, well, Facebook is a new platform for this, and then it jumped to Facebook, and Facebook kind of spurned all this new change and has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, and now LinkedIn is making this huge leap. So it's interesting how they've all kind of been the catalyst for each other to improve, and now it's a great competition. We'll see who ends up in first place, if there is such a thing as first place in this whole race. I think it just continues to morph and get broader and broader. And I think LinkedIn is really cool on that level from a business standpoint, because as you mentioned, in similar fashion to Facebook, where you have groups and supports, and you can join all these, or you can join chats or like pages and follow. LinkedIn now is a little more interesting on the level that you can kind of do more peer-to-peer type things on a business level. So if you want to join a group of marketing media specialists, if you want to join a group of songwriter, producers, promoters, architects, engineers, or anything else, there are all these different groups. So you get a really nice peer-to-peer interaction, as well as the ability, as you say, to network with people potentially to find leads for your business, to
Right.
expand your business, and or partnerships where you can join with others who might be in a similar or related field, that relationship helps build it again and grow new business. So this is something that is remarkable, because for years, think of all the things you had to do to try to make new connections. Go to parties, go to B2B networking things, et
Right.
cetera, et cetera. Now it's at your fingertips. You can do it in the middle of the night if you don't have time any other time, like many of us who are working all the time.
Absolutely. And with those groups, I've been involved in several groups where the discussions have gotten to be so excited and heated not in a bad way, but heated meaning that
Rigorous.
people are, rigorous. People wanting to share, and that they've been taken offline. People have said, wow, this is really great information for those of us who are, let's say, in Cincinnati. Let's meet at a local coffee shop and kind of get to know each other in person and discuss this further. I was involved with a LinkedIn group several years ago, Authentic Leadership, that we then took that group completely offline and turned it into a nonprofit foundation.
Oh, cool.
So we actually turned it into a real group, and not
real
just
entity.
a virtual.
Yeah, not
right.
a virtual entity,
not just
but
a virtual group.
Uh-huh.
But for those of you who are not familiar with groups on LinkedIn, there is a search function on LinkedIn, and you can search anything. As Mark mentioned, let's say social media marketers, but it could be that you're passionate about something. Maybe it's oh gosh, I was trying to think of that purple African violet. I think
Oh.
African violet societies, I think, are really
Sure.
big. But
Bonsai, apple, yeah,
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 you
right.
could pick anything, cycling, and I guarantee that there's probably a group that's been created. And a lot of times these are groups that really are in existence in real, in real life, IRL, but have a presence on LinkedIn to foster discussions. So, you'll just see a plethora of groups. And the very nice thing about LinkedIn is it does its own little analytics on the groups. If you go to a group, you will see who the most active users are because their pictures will be highlighted. So LinkedIn kind of tracks how active someone is. And groups, if they're not closed or locked, the conversations become searchable and indexable by Google. So a lot of the information that you're sharing can be pulled out and helped to increase your brand. We always talk about we want to be found, right? We want to be discovered in search. And so having an active profile kind of shoots out some of those little Google Juice moments to help, help your brand to be discovered for whatever you want to be discovered for.
Well, my thinking is, LinkedIn with, again, growing so quickly and becoming this, it's kind of reinvented itself, becoming this whole new platform. What would your hot tips be for someone maybe just getting into LinkedIn and what would you focus on first? What do you think the most pivotal or important strategic things would be to do with LinkedIn?
Great question. And actually, just a couple of hours ago, I was doing a LinkedIn training. I actually even have my training guide right here.
Just so happen to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, some tips that I tell everyone, what you want to do is you want to be found for whatever reason. So your profile absolutely needs to be optimized for search. And there are 5 key areas that you can kind of manipulate that on the LinkedIn profile. The first is your name. So you may think, well, how can you optimize your name? Your parents gave you this name, that's it. But if you have any credentials, let's say MBA, I was working with somebody in the HR field earlier this week, and folks in HR have their own certifications. You can add those accreditations or certifications behind your name just to give it a little bit of oomph and to help in search. The second piece is what the uninitiated may call the job title. It's really called or referred to in LinkedIn as the headline. And the headline is a piece where you have an opportunity, and you have almost 3 lines worth of space, to really either use a sentence or a phrase or keywords that describe what it is that you do and why you're unique. So, for example, and I won't mention any local bank names so people won't get upset, but let's say you come across a person and it says they are vice president at, Bank X. Well, what does that really tell us about that person? It doesn't tell us, what part of banking operations are they working in. It's just a very generic job title. And so that's a place where you can have an opportunity to share more about yourself. And so to give you an example, hopefully I can pull mine up and just kind of read to you what mine says. It says Michelle Beckham-Corbin MBA, so that's the name portion. And then strategic social media marketing, speaker, trainer, P&G alum, owner, C3 Creating Connections Consulting, a social media firm. So you kind of see a couple of keywords coming out of that: speaker, trainer, P&G alum, etc. Search terms that people may be using to find someone like me. The next piece that's really key is making sure that your summary statement has some keywords about what you do. And then when you get into your job experience portions, again, making sure that your job title is optimized, not just bank vice president, but a little bit more specific, mergers and acquisitions or whatever. And talking a little bit about what you bring to the table in that job. Not a job description, we're past 1970s resumes, but what did you do in that position to really shine or to make a difference? And then lastly, the other piece that is huge are endorsements. Have you seen the little grids on LinkedIn of all the little faces next to a list of skills? Those are endorsements, and if you have optimized your profile and added certain skills, then people who feel that you really do have that skill, they can simply, it's almost like Facebook and clicking like, they can very simply endorse you, and then the rest of the world coming upon your profile can very easily see the sea of faces, you know, and kind of see that, wow, you've been endorsed, you know, 75 times for architecture or for your music. And that just is huge as far as social credibility goes. But even more importantly, those skills that you've listed are huge keywords for search engine optimization.
Great tips. And so it's almost like if you have a Facebook presence and that serves as your personal and maybe a little bit of your business, and you can use it to you know, help build or at least get to your social folks, your connections, your personal connections, that LinkedIn can expand your horizons considerably into the business world, depending on your business, again, and what you do and what your specialties are, just by optimizing this platform, which has actually changed quite a bit from the old one. Now gives you the ability, again, to really take that to the next level and hit a demographic or a whole nother body or network of folks that maybe didn't have or wouldn't appear through Facebook, now would appear through LinkedIn.
Well, and I think, Mark, to your point, I really do think it depends on the business. And there are many businesses that really would do well to build a presence on LinkedIn, not only the individual personal profiles, but to have that company page. There are other businesses or brands that, while they may have a LinkedIn presence, their strength truly may come from having that Facebook page where there's a lot of interaction. You kind of think of brands, restaurants, or artists or sports teams or brands that really spur a lot of conversation can be very, very successful on Facebook. Not to say that others can't, but those are the ones that you know, are very easy. For example, like a Ben & Jerry's ice cream. I mean, they've got, I think, over 3 million Facebook fans, because who doesn't want to talk about ice cream, you know? So it's, you know, a much, much easier than, let's say, a business that's really trying to promote, you know, selling hammers and nails.
Tires.
Or well, yeah, well, tires, I don't know. You could have some fun with tires, I
tires,
think.
yeah,
You could
yeah.
have some fun with that. But yeah, and I think, you know, that's kind of the point of show number 5, is being very strategic and really getting a good feel for where should your business be online. And here's a tip. Find out where your target market is, because wherever they are, that's really where you want to be, and that's where you want to play and be able to reach them. But every professional person really should have a profile on LinkedIn for all the reasons that we mentioned. I do want to let people know that maybe aren't familiar. You've heard of 6 degrees of separation, right?
Sure.
And of course, we say in Cincinnati it's like 3 or 2 even.
Yeah.
But LinkedIn works in a way where you have people professional folks who are connected to you. It is an acceptance thing. It's not an automatic. Someone invites you, you can say yes or no. And then those folks also have connections, which now you're connected to that universe through a second level. The second level folks have connections. And so then you are connected to this broader universe through third level connections. And just to illustrate how big this can be, for me personally, I have 850 something first level LinkedIn connections. That gets me to over 11 million people that I can send an email message to, either through direct message or through the use of introductions to get to my third level contacts. So if you're a business or you're trying to sell something, or let's say you're in job search and you're open to moving anywhere in the world, that's huge, huge.
Or especially if you have a business that maybe you're selling a product that could be internationally accepted and purchased. What a great opportunity to be able to get to that. Could you get into that a little bit further? So in discussing the first and second and third level connections, your first level connection, obviously people you know, maybe you've had interaction with. Second level connections are friends of friends, so to speak. And the third level are friends of friends of friends.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And and LinkedIn's very clear. They really emphasize that they want people to know their connections. They actually refer to it as your trusted network.
Sure.
So that if someone were to come to you, and this has happened to me actually, someone was interested in hiring somebody that was in my network. And so they came to me wanting a little bit of background since I knew the person personally. And I was able to share the great things that this person had done. So if you're a person that is out there to just connect with the world and not necessarily know any of them, or even take it a step further and get to know them, that's not really a trusted network. It's almost just kind of building and building and building. So, even if you don't have to know everyone, you may come across someone or their profile and find something that's very interesting or that you want to know more about. You certainly can send them a message and say, hey, I see you're in the music industry and I'm working on an album and I would love to talk to you or buy you a cup of coffee. Would you like to connect with me on LinkedIn? That happens all the time. I think that the key is the personalization. It's not using any of that canned language that's already written.
Sure.
That says, I'd like to connect you to my professional network on LinkedIn,
right.
It's like delete that, start over, and just tell them why you want to connect.
Sure. That's a good tip. I think intuitively I've always kind of done that because I always felt like, well, if I'm going to connect with somebody, I'm not going to use the stock thing. I'm going to speak in my language, or at least in my phrasing, how I like to speak. And I think it is more personal. And let's face it, that's one of the cool things about all this technology now, is that it gives us the ability to really get a leg up on really connecting with a lot more people in a lot of different ways, so that now that our networks become huge, and it may have taken a social situation years ago to just meet somebody and meet a new connection, but now it's all digitally. You can do it anytime, any place, anywhere, and gives you so much more flexibility and ability to grow a lot of things,
Yeah.
educationally and professionally. It's such a cool thing to be able to do. Next thing you know, we're going to have a chip. Not to get off on a sidebar.
Somewhere.
Well, I just saw a special on there putting them now to predict heart attacks.
Oh, wow.
They're intravenously putting them in your system, and they predict a heart attack within 2 to 3 days of one happening.
Wow.
So the digital age, I'm getting off on a little bit outside of our realm here, but the digital age is really upon us. And nanotechnology is the next leap to that, as you can see, as we're now, it used to be a big old clunky computer, then it went to a laptop, and now we're down to our little iPads.
Our iPads and our
we're going
smartphones.
Microcosmic with our phones.
Well, speaking of iPads and smartphones, LinkedIn has a fabulous app that allows you to do almost everything that you can do on your PC or your laptop and basically run your LinkedIn profile. Send messages, interact with groups, etc. And so that's great. If you ever have a situation where you've got to meet someone, let's say you've spoken on the phone and you're going to meet someone at a coffee shop, then you can pull them up on LinkedIn just to kind of see what they look like, so you're not watching that coffee shop door trying to figure out, is that the person I'm meeting? Is that the person I'm meeting? So it's a great app, and it's very, very, very useful.
All intriguing stuff. Have you ever done your own app?
I would love to be able to do that. As a matter of fact, I would love to work with a startup company. Call me.
I'll call you.
I'm fascinated by all of that.
How's that?
Oh, that's great. See, we didn't even need LinkedIn. We're doing a business deal right here.
There you go. I'm going to call you about designing an app for me. It'll be quite an app too, I'll bet. But no, I just thought, with your connections in the marketplace, I didn't know if that was something that your clients ever were interested in.
Yes.
Having you help them design it, because interesting from a marketeer, a professional in the marketing industry with an MBA, really understands business, could say, hey, look, here's what we want to accomplish. And you've got a brand we want to separate from everybody else and just make us leaps and bounds of everybody else, because we came up with this really clever way to come up with an app that everybody's going to want.
And apps are the thing right now.
They are the thing. I can't keep up. I mean, I get on my iPad at night just to educate myself. It's the time when I spend educating myself at that time of the evening.
Yeah.
I get done with my business day, go to the boudoir, so to speak, and as we start to drift off, I usually pull my my iPad up for an hour and
Just
just
read.
try to time for education because.
Well, and you know, you bring up a really good point. Education is key. I mean, not only for the casual user, but especially for business owners. I did a program at the Chamber not too long ago, and one of the things that I told business owners was that even if you've got someone else running your social media, employee, et cetera, or even outsourcing it, you still need to be at the very top level on top of how these social media
Savvy.
platforms are
I mean,
using. Yeah, absolutely.
You need it because in order to function and be strategic and plan ahead, and the competition's getting fierce. I mean, it is really, really getting fierce due to the economy, due to everybody having access to all this stuff. What gets you a leg up in trying to get your business heard or get it out there and compete for this target segment that you're going for, whatever that may be? Education is key, and hopefully that's why you're watching our show, because we're giving you hot tips on how to do all this stuff, and we don't want a commission, so it's all free information through the graces here of ACTV. And well, LinkedIn is really, really intriguing to me, and I do have to admit that I haven't been really as diligent as I should on LinkedIn because I've been so busy with other things. And so I felt I got left in the dust a little bit. I have been on LinkedIn for a long time, but I kind of missed this last leap. Been paying attention to it and done some key things to it, but have been a bit remiss in really spending as much time on it as I should. And so this has been a good conversation for me also.
Well, and you know, Mark, you don't have to worry. LinkedIn has an app for that now.
It does?
Actually,
No, come on.
They're adding an analytic that is going to show you just how engaged your profile is. Wow. It'll actually measure how much you've used LinkedIn, and you'll be able to see that in your home section of LinkedIn. So they'll be letting you know if you've dodged them for a couple of weeks actually working on your job.
Yeah, what is my job now? Let me see. I think it's a lot of it has been this and getting educated on all this, but it's all been really, really, really great stuff. So, wow, Facebook, LinkedIn, what's the next great final frontier that's going to come along?
Well, I'll tell you, I thought it would be really nice in our next show to talk about the giant project that you're working on and how you've used, and your folks have used social media to promote this great undertaking that you've got coming.
Well, as you know, I'm always game for being the guinea pig or being made the example of, and I'm happy to do that. It will show how either good or bad I've been at it, and I'm not afraid of that. I'm a fairly transparent individual in business and personally, so thank you. I really look forward to that. I love that concept, and hopefully I'll learn something, and our audience will learn something, and it's all great. Ladies and gentlemen, we really appreciate you tuning in to ACTV and visiting Michelle and I here for our shows. And hopefully now we've got you hooked and you're going to continue to watch us. So on behalf of Michelle and myself and ACTV, please join us for our next exceptionally exciting version of Digitally Speaking. And don't forget to get on the internet and look at our programs. If you have not seen issues 1 through 5, stop back and see us. And thank you so very, very much. Look forward to seeing you next time on Digitally Speaking.
That's right.